At the age of start of World War II, I remember hearing my parents say, Japan, she attacked Pearl Harbor. At the age of 4 or 5, I thought, a woman attacked Pearl Harbor? What's that all about, okay? And it was long before I realized they referred to countries as she, or as we now call our mother country, Africa. But I am truly an American descendant of chattel slavery. Yes, that's who I am. Genetically, I'm 55% Nigerian, and so is my wife. But I claim my place in this country that we built. The economy of this country was built on cotton, and that was raised by slaves.
That's right.
Do you understand that? Yes. And there were Minnesotans who invested in slavery through their banks in New York. So those of you who come from down south, you are now up south. Don't believe in Minnesota nice. This is Minnesota ice when it comes to black people. I'm telling you what I know. I've been here since 1959. I was the first black salesman ever hired by 3M, and I had to prove my worth. I was the first black vice president of a company called Control Data, who had huge stakes here in St. Paul. But I say that, and our first job was working at Hallie Q. Brown under Alice Anquay and Jana Bell Taylor. Some of you may remember those people. I want to say this, and then I'm going to, my grandson accused me of never finding a mic that I didn't fall in love with. So I want to be clear, to be short and brief. But there's some things that must be said. The Debt by Randall Robinson. How many in here have read it? Not enough of you have read it. Go on Amazon and buy The Debt. If you don't like it, I'll give you my phone number. I'll buy it back from you and give it to someone else. Read The Debt, because it talks about why we deserve reparations. Do you all remember the March on Washington when King said America's given its black people a check that has returned non-sufficient funds? What do you think he was talking about? He was talking about reparations.
That's right.
I cannot end this town without giving credit and tribute to Nick Muhammad and Brother Thomas. For some reason right now his name is escaping me. Thomas Berry. I want to pay tribute to your Illinois State chairperson for coming here and visiting us here. I grew up in Brooklyn, Illinois, the first all-black town in America. First black town in America. And when the slave chasers crossed the Mississippi River to try to recapture slaves and burn down a white abolitionist called Elijah P. Lovejoy, burned his paper down because he was writing against slavery. He escaped to Brooklyn. They finally killed him. But they didn't kill nobody else because the slaves in Brooklyn was armed. And they fought them slave chasers right across the Mississippi on the Missouri side, which was a slave state. So I said that to say I grew up instilled in the notion that something was wrong with America. On one side of my town was Belleville, Illinois, said no Negroes allowed after 6 p.m. On the other side was Granite City, unless you worked in the steel mills, or for Miss Ann, as we used to call her. That was white ladies. We called them Miss Ann. Unless you worked with Miss Ann and had a pass, you had after 6 o'clock, you wasn't allowed in Granite City. Some of y'all don't know what we're talking about, but I'm telling you, that's the history. That's why we deserve reparations. Germany killed 9 million Jews and paid Israel reparations. The United States locked up the Japanese because they were colored, a colored person, and they locked them up and took their property. But when they released them after World War II, they paid them reparations. Now I want to give credit to St. Paul. It has started. It's small, but it's significant. It's the first step in a long journey. We've been on this journey since 1690. We've been on this journey since 1690. It's a journey that's not going to end when I leave this planet. But I'm going to leave it in good hands. Oh yeah. I'm going to leave it in good hands because you got leaders like this one. Anika Bowie, you got Brother Nick, another fantastic leader. You got the brother from Illinois, fantastic. You got the Jeremy, my nephew, who's here working hard to make reparations a reality for all of us. But it starts with this. Make no mistake about it. If you all don't vote for her, she ain't on that council. You all didn't vote for her. Those who showed up to vote for her, I want to give you an applause. Not only is she good for St. Paul, she's competent to be such a much higher. Run against Betty McCollum, she ain't done nothing for black people. And I know it. Matter of fact, she insulted us when we went for the African American Leadership Forum. We went to D.C. for the Black Congressional Caucus. We met with Senator Klobuchar. We met with then Representative Keith Ellison in their office. They talked to us. Betty McCollum had an appointment with us. She made us stand in the hallway and said, "Oh, I got to go to the Senate for a vote," and they ignored us. It was wrote up in the St. Paul paper. I don't know if you all remember that. So I got no respect for Betty McCollum. Chase her out of office. That would be the best thing to do, because she's never going to vote for reparations. I haven't said that, and then I'm going to be finished. I want to give thanks to the Creator. He has kept us on this journey from across the Atlantic, from the door of no return in West Africa. We survived, and then we thrived. We're thriving, and we can thrive even better if we are paid what we are due. And if we don't demand that we get out, that John Conyers, may he rest in peace. Every year, is he still among us? The peace be upon him, yes. Every year he introduced a bill for reparations. Every year he was in the Congress. Give that man his respect. I'm going to applaud him wherever he is. And so as I close, I want to say thank you. I want to thank you for honoring me. But you don't owe me a thing. I did what I was supposed to do. My mother, Lorraine English, at every step of the way told me, "Son, you owe." When I graduated from 8th grade, she said, "You owe." I graduated from high school, she said, "You owe." When I finally got my degree from college, she said, "You owe." And when I got promoted to vice president of 5 Fortune 100 company, she told them over the phone, "You owe, son. I know you earned it, but you owe to give back. And don't drink too much." So without further ado, first of all, I want to introduce my family that's here with me tonight. I want to introduce 2 beautiful women, my wife, Freddie, and my daughter, Cheryl, Denise, and stand up. No, stand up. That's about the only thing I can do. That's about the only thing I can tell them what to do. Because otherwise, I make all the big decisions in the house. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Who's going to win the World Series? Who's going to take out the garbage? I win all those decisions. All right? But also, I want to introduce you to my youngest brother, Charles English, who was raised 3 serious black women who have taken their place to become leaders in their own community. Every one of them graduated from college. And he did it at 26 in Irving in North Minneapolis, what they call the Negro Ghetto. I grew up in the Rondo neighborhood, the Turtle Club. Oh yeah, I remember my mom hanging out. I worked at Alley Q. Brown. So I know the Rondo neighborhood, like all of you know the Rondo neighborhood. And I'm glad to see this connector coming back. Support it. Support it. And now I want you to give this lady a round of applause for wanting to serve you. She will do it with integrity. She will do it honest. And also, she's a fox. Come on.
Yes, like my soul just got so energized because this has been, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but this has been a lifelong fight for multiple eras, right? And I just want to give it up to everyone who put a hand into making sure that we have this event. Thank you so much for everyone who's coordinated. Thank you for those the caterers, the food was on point. I'm always happy when a Black event has good food. You know, that's definitely a thing, so I appreciate that. I also want to just give thanks to Elder Bill English and his wife and his family for just uplifting me. Y'all, I am about a month and a half of being an elected official, and and I am, to say that I'm honored is an understatement, because I come from a history of women, of Black families, of Black leaders who instilled in me the value of servitude, to where we have took great pride into serving and contributing. This system have exploited and have weaponized it against us, right? And to step forward into this role with a heart, with a duty to serve, a duty to fight for our freedom, and a duty to win. That's right. Yeah. You know, in the spirit of Assata Shakur. And that spirit has to continue carrying on to keep going. And I grew up in the Rondo neighborhood. Never really saw this opportunity or thought about, ever running for office. But, growing up and seeing that there's so many issues happening within our neighborhoods, and being taught by our public schools that slavery, one, is over and segregation is over, and we have all of these, equalities, and we're living in this promised land of opportunities. And then when you are faced with the reality that does not match that narrative. And when you sit down at the feet of your elders and your grandmas and start hearing about the stories of how they were able to get to where they're at and the sacrifices they had to make. I just want to give honor to my grandmother, Lily Pearl Pierce. She was born and raised in Marshall, Texas. Marshall, Texas, and at a place where it was occupied by actually Native Americans who were slave owners of that land. And she was one out of 24 children in Marshall, Texas. Before she was married, her last name was King, and was also related to, people may know, George Foreman. And George Foreman, if people know anything about his family, a very huge family, right? And she grew up on a farm. She was very educated, went to Wiley College, was a great debater, and met my grandfather named Charles Pierce, and migrated to San Francisco during that time of the gold rush, right? And college-educated Black woman. My grandfather was from the military. He was a Marine. Went to San Francisco thinking that they can have a better life, and found themselves redlined. Couldn't even, had the money, right? But couldn't even purchase property where they wanted to, where their money could have afforded them to, but they were redlined in the Bay Area. And my grandmother, even though she's a college graduate, was never able to actually have a job or go into a career that can really help her and match her salary. So she grew up, or she, was a homemaker. To 14, she gave birth to 14 kids, and one of those have always taught me to never get out of the will of God, right? And she was very, very steadfast. And one thing about my grandmother, Lily Pearl, she just had such a beautiful grace about her. I can only imagine in Marshall, Texas, such a small rural town in Texas, the racism, the level of violence that they were exposed to, the stealing of land that my family still is dealing with to this day. There are oil companies pumping in our land, but we do not have rights to it because of how the tax assessors and the government officials in that time over centuries have used ways to just totally exploit and divide and conquer when it comes to Black families. So when we just think about the level of wealth that was lost. And I'm telling you this story, right, about Texas and about San Francisco, because coming from Rondo, we are not an isolated city. We're not a unique story. Stories of all different type of predominantly African-American neighborhoods been uprooted under the administration of the Johnson administration. That's why when we talk about voting, it's so important, and you're never going to get from me, I'm never going to preach to the choir in terms of voting, because I feel like the people in this room already know the power of voting, right? But when we talk about, there's one thing about voting, but another thing about understanding and ensuring that we have policy, because that is where we are being destroyed by.
Yes.
So we talk about the disruption of the corridor of Rondo. That wasn't done with, white racist skinheads picketing. That wasn't done with, protests and tiki torches. That was done with the power of a pen on our administration, on our transportation committee. And so when we talk about showing up to the table and being there to serve, you have to navigate in such a way. Also, I want to share, here, stepping into this role, especially with St. Paul Reparations, I also want to give recognition to, I see former council member Jane Prince is here in the room, and I want to just round of applause. Because we need champions, we need sponsors for these bills. We need people to bring it across the finish line, and it doesn't have to be Black. It doesn't have to be our kinfolks. We just need someone who's going to be with us, right, to make sure we get this across the finish line. But when we talk about reparations, we are talking explicitly about paying a debt of exploitation, of slavery. Right? So we're a total exploitation of not only labor, but of our entire bodies. Knowing that I come from a family of descendants of chattel slavery, I can't find my ancestry. My ancestry only goes as far as sales receipts. Right? When we talk about digging into this work and finding our roots and finding our histories, when you go dig deep, we are listed on sales receipts, as collateral, as we were talking about, as capital. So we need to approach this in such a way to where this is all around wealth building and reclaiming what's ours and reclaiming what our ancestors have contributed. And yes, dollars, cash, bring it on. I think we need to move beyond just education. I think, yes, we are very educated. Like I said, I come from my grandmother who was college educated but didn't have a nickel to her name because we lived in a racist system that banned her from being able to find employment. But when we're talking about the theme of this day is our youth deserves justice. And Brian Stevenson has this quote that says, "The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice." Injustice cannot be blind. We have failed as a system for so long because we want to believe in a blind, colorblind system of justice. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want anybody determining my life with a blindfold on. I need you to see me. I need you to see me. I don't want nobody making decisions that is not able to see me. I don't want anyone driving any type of agenda without seeing me. So we need to remove that entire concept of justice needs to be blind. And also, we need to also talk about, in my role as city council, I oversee not only our budget, but we make rules and amendments and also charter changes. But one of the things, we oversee like our streets. And 2 weeks ago, it was an honor and a privilege to be able to pass successfully with my colleagues. We successfully, currently, excuse me. Okay, that must be the cue, the music. Okay. Don't bring the Sandman now, okay? But here, let me say this out. Yeah, hey, Mr. Good English had me going, okay? So I just feel like I need to say myself. So
take your time.
But 2 weeks ago we were able to pass Rondo street name change. So we now have it permanently. So Concordia and St. Anthony, which was parallel to I-94, is now going to be changed back to Rondo Avenue. It's going to be a one step into, if you could clap on that as well. That's just one step in terms of establishing what we're going to have as a cultural art business enterprise district, right? To create that infrastructure and use that business district to be able to use historical tax credits to invest back into housing, get more commercial development there, get more businesses there, get more opportunities there. And then last but not least, I want to just say that, with the work that we're doing with the Reparations Commission and our, I believe, 10 commissioners, we're excited to just keep the ball rolling. I think how it's very uniquely positioned. We got some real sound experts on here. Me and my colleague, Anika Johnson, she's a council member on the east side. She serves in the same seat that Jane Prince was in. We're spearheading this and making sure that we're going to not only, it's enough to make sure that, reparations stay alive, but ensuring that they know that they have someone on the city council that's seeking bold recommendations for us to adopt. I told them already in the first week, I was like, give us something so scary that we tremble just even wanting to touch it, right? Give us something like that because that's what the people deserve. And, just knowing that this is a mustard seed to move a bigger mountain. So what we're doing on a local level, we want to show as a model for what we're going to put pressure on the federal level. So again, I just want to say thank you so much for honoring me. I'm going to be here tomorrow, so we're going to have an opportunity for us to collaborate and continue talking. I'm always going to be at 15 Kellogg Avenue. That's my new home, y'all. So doing the good work, and I can't do it without you. I appreciate you, and like I said, please, let's fight for reparations so hard that it scares all of us.